Hi there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Today we are going to be creating a card using these dies on screen, and we're going to start off by creating this little giraffe. So I have die cut his body pieces out of some orange coloured cardstock, and then I sponged a little bit of this walnut stain distress ink onto a piece of, I think it's Bristol Smooth cardstock there on the right hand side. And I just cut out all the little finer details from that little brown piece of paper. So first up, we're going to add some details to the giraffe's body, and this little bit of mane or hair that's going to go down the giraffe's back, I'm just going to add some walnut stain distress ink, which is a brown color, and just going to color it a little bit. Then moving on to his little nose, I'm just going to do the same to that and add a little bit of ink, and then I'm going to ink up the edges of it in particular so that it stands out a little bit from his face, which is in the same coloured cardstock. From there, I am going to just mask off his little horns and colour those in the same brown ink and try and make them nice and dark. Peel it off and you can see it just makes him look a little bit different. And then just laying out how my little giraffe is going to look. Adding a little bit of the multi-medium, which is in the matte finish, and that one is from Ranger. That's what's inside of the precision tip little bottle that I purchased from AliExpress. Then I'm going to put some little foam squares on the top of his neck and then a couple more on his nose so that it just stands off his face a little bit and gives him a little bit of dimension. And then the last little bit for his face, for the front of his nose, is this tiny wee piece from the brown bits that I cut out. And I must admit that I don't super know what a giraffe's face is meant to look like, and I don't really know what all the little pieces are that come in the die, sorry. But anyhow, this is how my little giraffe looks today. So I've just put a couple of tiny little googly eyes on the giraffe. Again, I think there are some eyes that come in the die, but anyhow, the little googly eyes are what I used today. And then putting on his little spots, which are coloured brown. And then down the bottom of the screen, you can see his little hooves. And for his little hooves, I am going to I'm actually using a big brush marker from Faber-Castell, but any black marker will do, or black paint or black ink, whatever you have handy. And I'm just colouring them nice and dark and then just using the same glue to pop them onto his feet. So my little giraffe is coming together quite nicely, and then I'm just going to take off the little release paper of those squares and sit his head up on there. Just being a little bit careful because his little eyes and things are still wet. So, okay, so now I'm moving on to my card base, and this is just a, I'm just adding some sticky tape, some cheap sticky tape, and so that I can kind of mask off the middle because I want that to stay white. And then I'm using some, I think it's fossilized amber, maybe distress oxide ink. It's a yellowy color, to around the outside to create kind of a border. This is directly onto the card base, and so you can see now I've got this big sort of ugly looking not very straight lines, but it'll all come together soon. You'll see how it works out. Then I have this cloud die, which is from AliExpress, and I just have this piece of cardstock that just sits on my desk that I cut using that die, and I reuse this piece of cardstock over and over whenever I want to create clouds like this. So you can see that my ink blending is not great. I've got darker spots and lighter spots, but I'm just going over and over and over using different parts of the cardstock, and you can see I've got quite a big blue dot there, but that'll work out in the end. I've cut this grassy border from a die which is purchased from AliExpress, and I'm just going to use a couple of distress oxide. One is twisted citron and then the other one is peeled paint. And with the twisted citron, I'm just literally layering it on. There's no skill or technique. I'm just getting it on as thick as I can. Yeah, just layering it down. Then with the peel paint, I am it's a new foam, so I'm just putting lots on. But then I dot some off, and then I dot up and down. I just sort of blot up, down, and it gives a kind of speckled look to the grass. So it just gives it some sort of dimension and texture. Okay, so that little bit of grass is done. I've made a huge piece of grass, and I'll only need a little one, but that's okay. Then I've got this frame, which I purchased from AliExpress, and it's also got stitching around the inside and outside of the frame. So this is what I've cut out of 80-pound Nina Solar white cardstock, and I'm just putting some foam tape. This is just leftover foam tape from I don't even know where. This is just leftovers that are in. I have a whole big tub of it that I'm trying to use up, and so I've put that on the back of the frame. And you can see now that the frame is going to cover up all of that unevenness of the yellow, where the yellow meets the sky in the background of where we did that ink blending. With this grass, I just feel like for the scenes that I make, the scene cards, I like to cut the grass, the blades of grass, so they're not so long, just so it feels like it puts it in perspective a little bit better with the size of the giraffe and things. So I've just cut a little bit of green grass that's going to sit nicely, and I just want it to sit a little bit lower, so I cut a little bit more off the bottom. And then I just flick it over and put some glue on the back, and then place the frame down so that I know exactly where I want the grass to sit, so that it's going to sit nicely behind the frame. And then from there I have this balloon, and this is from a set from AliExpress, and I'll try and find the set and link it below as well. I have a couple of distress oxides. I have wilted violet, and I think it's picked raspberry, and I'm just doing a little bit of two-tone and covering up with some masking tape the string because I want that bit to stay white, and just using the picked raspberry to do the bottom of the balloon, and I kind of blend them in, blend the two colors together. You need to be careful. I just had to get a little piece of paper because otherwise my fingerprints would go into the distress oxide inks. Okay, so got my little balloon done, and take off the masking paper down the bottom, and you can see that the string stays nice and white. And my card is nearly complete. From here it's really just a matter of assembling my little card and putting all the bits together. I'm just going to take the release paper off from the back of my frame, and this card today is not going to have a sentiment. I think it's pretty obvious it will be some sort of celebration because it's got a balloon, and I was thinking more of a kid's card, and that way you don't have to have a specific age or a specific happy birthday or anything on the card to point it out. I think it's just a cute little kid's card. So I didn't put my frame on straight, so just took it off and then pop it on, back on nice and straight, and it hides all of that yuckiness from the unevenness of the yellow and where the sky meet. The little giraffe I'm just going to add flat with some matte medium on the back. He sits kind of nicely inside of the frame, and the balloon is going to sit outside on top of the frame. It's quite nice to have some aspects of the card that layer up and come outside of the frame, I think. The last little thing that I need to do to this balloon, I think, is you can see there it's got the shine, the sort of shine marks that the die cuts out of the balloon, and I don't like to leave it just empty to see through. So I've just got a little scrap of mirror cardstock here. You could use foil, you could use glitter cardstock, you could use anything really. And I'm just cutting a tiny little piece and then using some liquid glue to adhere it onto the back, just so that when you look through the shine marks, you can't see right through it, I guess. So just add a little bit, and then I blot it off a little bit with a piece of paper because I'm terrible at adding too much liquid glue and it goes everywhere. Okay. So now I've got my little balloon, and I know that it's really hard to see on camera, but it makes me feel better. Okay, so we're pretty much all done, and I just need to stick the little balloon up. As I said, I'm just going to use some liquid glue and put it on top of the frame, and it kind of sits behind his little tail. And that's pretty much my card today. I'll have all of the products from AliExpress linked below. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you enjoyed this card. I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.